Whether you're tuning in live or tuning into the Who You Know Show podcast, this is your opportunity to get a seat at the table with those going the places you know you can go and doing the things you know you can do. Now, we don't see this divider with a stage on top and an audience down below. No. Instead, we look at this as the world's largest breakfast table. It's full of motivation, education, inspiration, and even a friendly competition with the positive intention of pushing your momentum in the right direction. Now, listen, if you ever miss a segment, you can go download the Who You Know Show podcast, subscribe, and listen anytime. So head on over to whoyouknow.show, grab the link, and subscribe. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Who You Know Show by Clear Path Wealth Strategies, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, your health, your business, your career, relationships, and definitely in your life. I'm your host, Trevor Houston, and on this episode, it's all about optimizing your health at the deepest level, understanding and leveraging your unique genetic blueprint to maximize your wellness, rejuvenate your life, and achieve your full potential. And on this episode, we sit down with Kashif Khan, a biotech disruptor, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of The DNA Way. Kashif is on a mission to revolutionize the way we approach wellness through the power of our own genetic information. So, man, I'm super pumped and excited. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, man. Good talking to you.
Absolutely. All right. So I promised the audience a couple extra years on their life. I hope we can deliver. Can we deliver?
It's a lot of pressure, man, but let's make it happen.
All right, man. Let's rock and roll. Listen, start off by telling us what functional genomics. Am I saying that right? Genomics?
Not quite right. You're almost there. You're one letter off. Functional genomics. So
genomics. Okay, genomics. Okay, it's all about. See, it almost sounds like geometry or something. Genomics. Okay, functional genomics. All right, tell us about what the heck that is. All right.
So the easiest way to understand it is if you think of medicine. So modern medicine is diagnose and prescribe. Here's what your disease is called, and here's a pill you need. Functional medicine is let's figure out why you got sick. Root cause. What did you eat? What did you breathe? How much stress did you have? Right? The reason. The same is true in genetics. Genetics is you have an 80% chance of Alzheimer's. You have a 60% chance of breast cancer. Good luck with that information. That's kind of what genetics was until now. Functional genomics is that marker gives us a priority of Alzheimer's. Now let's figure out why you would get it and make sure it just never happens. We can go much deeper into biology now. We've understood these diseases much more comprehensively, and so understanding why they happen, it helps us prevent them.
So I recently, about a year ago, I went to 10X GrowthCon, and Gary Brecka, right? Is this similar to what he's talking about, where you do genetic code? I did the genetic code 10X Health Systems. Is this similar to that?
It's much deeper. So let's say
deeper.
Gary's done a good job of understanding one system, which is called methylation. Methylation is a very important system that drives a lot of processes in the body, but it's not the only system. There's also glutathionization, glucuronidation, antioxidation, your hormones, neurochemicals of your brain, your metabolism, disease markers. And if you understand, it's kind of like having the best tire in the world on your car, and then you didn't look at any other part of the car. So you got to look at everything and optimize everything, and then you become the best version of yourself, your highest potential.
Wow. Okay. So this is deeper, right? Because I'm going to tell you, when I got my results back, right, I was like overwhelmed almost, because there was just so much information. And then next thing you know, I got kind of like a recommendation for all these supplements.
Yeah.
And I was like, they were recommending like almost like 10 different supplements. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't take anything. Like, you all of a sudden now I got to take 10 things. I'm like, I don't know about this. It felt very overwhelming. I'm like, that's a great way to turn someone off. Um, and so and then they kind of change things up. They've got this other one that's like a more enhanced
Yeah,
they say it's a more enhanced genetic test. And then you get these satchels of vitamins or whatever, of supplements.
yeah.
Like, talk to me about that, because that I'm starting to see that now. It's like these little satchels with, like, it's personalized to you.
It's personalized, but it's not really personalized. It's just sorting things into bags as if like you're a baby and you can't sort it yourself, right?
Mm,
So what's personalized is if what was in that pill was custom made for you, which is also possible. But if the answer is only supplements, you didn't get the full answer because your
mm,
genetics are here's how your body does every job. DNA is a instruction manual that lives in every single one of your cells. You have 50 trillion cells that makes up the body. Every single cell has DNA. So the kidney cell knows how to read the kidney section of the instruction manual and go do some work. The hormones know how to read the hormone section. The detoxification pathways read the detox section. All these things that are going on in your body are instructed by DNA on how to operate, how to do their job. So when you read the manual, if there's some line of code that's misspelled or broken or there's a paragraph missing, that job isn't happening properly. So the only yes, supplements are important, but they're not the only thing. There's three buckets of now. Here's my genes. There's some genes that don't work, and I'm going to give you some examples of that. The three then considerations are environment.
mm,
What am I breathing? What pesticides? What chemicals? What's in my home? What's in my office? Lifestyle. How do I sleep, stress levels, exercise. My DNA should tell me how I'm supposed to exercise, how often, do I weight lift, do I run? DNA will tell you that. And third is nutrition, which is what do I eat and what supplements do I take? But the first two need to be worked on before this last one. And if somebody is just jumping to supplements, they don't understand functional genomics well.
mm. Okay, so what were the first two again? It was
Environment, so everything that you're surrounded by, what are you exposed to? the
mm,
the wi-fi in your home, the
mm,
chemicals in your lawn, the
mm,
the mold that might be in your basement. I work with a family, for example, that one person in the family was very sick,
mm,
and they really believed that this person was sick because they're the only one, same food, same habits, same everything, so it wasn't caused, they're just sick. When we investigated, I found in their DNA there's very specific pathways on filtering airborne toxins. So when we breathe, our lungs, our respiratory system is meant to block certain nonsense from entering your bloodstream and remove it. You pee it out, you poop it out, you sweat it out, right? She had the worst version of this gene. There's another gene that once the stuff gets in past your lungs to into your bloodstream, it's kind of like a scavenger that looks for these toxins and removes them. And so that should make it so that you can be exposed to something, breathe it in, but you still are fine because you get rid of it. So she had the worst version of this I can't filter at my lungs, and she was
mm,
absolutely missing the second gene. She didn't even have it. It was missing from her genetic code, the scavenging and removal from her blood. So when they had a renovation in her home and a little bit of mold got released into the air,
mm,
she got sick and
mm.
nobody else did,
That
right?
makes a lot of sense. So, okay, growing up, um, we got black mold in the house. We had a
Mm,
flood, right?
yeah.
And got black mold in the house. It wasn't cleaned up properly. And I remember, like, living in this. And I remember I would just wake up and my eye would be like, it'd be swelled up. I'd have a sty, and my eye would just be like swelled up. And then some days I would just be sick out of nowhere. Like, what the heck happened, And but it was this black mold that we had got in the house. So you're saying the first thing is to really look in your environment. I mean, how do you really test for that? Is it just like testing the air?
So this is why we use genetics first, because if you understand the jobs that your body doesn't do well, then you know what exposures are bad for you. So you could listen to 100 podcasts, read 100 books. You can't do everything that everyone's telling you to do. It's too much work, right?
Mm,
What you need to know is where do I actually put my dollars and my time? What supplement do I really need? What do I really need to investigate? What for me isn't actually a problem, I metabolize vitamin D really well, so I don't need to take any, right? So things of that nature where you're redundant, wasting your time, wasting your money. So by understanding the genome, you then can answer that question of what threat do I need to pay attention to the most? Where
Mm.
do I put my time? Because nobody can do everything. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I will tell you one thing that I started to do recently that I swear by. Okay, like I swear by it. People think I'm crazy, but it's becoming kind of a trend. So I took one of those big ice
Right,
freezers, right, chest freezers, and converted it into a cold plunge ice bath, right?
right.
And I do that every morning. And like, you cannot be in a bad mood after you get out of that thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible. Like, it literally, I can feel it in my brain when I'm in there. It's like there's this tingling happening in there. Like, literally, I can feel it in my brain. And I get out, and it's like, I only do 7 minutes in there. You do 7 minutes, call it 7 minutes of heaven. Right? You get out of that thing, and you feel just like $1,000,000. And
Yep.
and then I work out after that. Because I also read, and maybe you can tell me if this is true or not. I read that at first I was going from that ice bath straight to a hot shower.
Yeah.
And I read that kind of negates some of the benefits to it if you're going from cold to hot, and that you should allow your body to naturally warm back up. And so I do that, and then I work out. Any thoughts on that?
So first of all, that's a perfect example of where your genetic can drive the choices on habits.
Mm.
So you said cold plunge makes you feel great, right?
Mhm.
There's some people that say I tried it and I felt horrible. Well, that doesn't
Mm.
make sense because every biohacker in the world is saying go cold plunge. Well,
Mm.
there's a gene called UCP1, which is responsible for thermal regulation of the body, your body's ability to actually manage its core temperature. And some people have a bad version of that gene.
Ah.
So they cold plunge every single day. What is one of the major benefits that we want from cold plunge? It helps your body burn fat because you're in cold. It's a big utilization of calories, and so you lose fat, right? If you have a bad UCP1 gene and you cold plunge, over time, because your body can't thermoregulate, it will actually start to store fat intentionally to protect you. It can't understand what's going on. It thinks you're in battle. It thinks you're in fight or flight mode, and it needs to protect you, right? So
Ah.
there's some people that go into a cold plunge. They're like, I feel horrible. I don't know what's going on. But it's not everybody. It's a few people. And for those people, that one size fits all type advice didn't work for them, right? I can't tell you how many women I work with that say, oh, I tried that cold plunging first 2 3 days, it felt great, and now I don't get what's going on. I'm storing weight, and maybe I need more. I'm not doing enough
Mm.
because they make a lot more estrogen than other women. So if
Mm.
you're more estrogen dominant, the body is wired to be the protector of the tribe, the mama bear, right? So when your body sees stress at that level regularly, again, it thinks that you're in battle, you're in famine, time to store fat to
Mm.
make sure you survive and thrive. Because we are wired for ancestral cues. Our body doesn't know what the modern world looks like. It thinks we're cave people, right? So having said that, now there's a gene called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. It drives the production of BDNF in the brain, which is what allows you to make new neurons, new neural pathways, learn new skills, you know, accept new ideas. You need new hardware in your brain to do that. So you may have a not so good version of that gene, which is why when you get in the cold plunge, your brain feels amazing. So because you
Mm.
get this surge of BDNF that you don't normally have, right? And somebody else that has good BDNF isn't going to feel that surge because they're already good.
Mm.
So you can hyper personalize anything, any choice you have to make. It's like, how do I know this is right or wrong for me? But in terms of the last thing you said about the contrast therapy between hot and cold, it's both arguments are true. Contrast therapy is great. Going from
Mm.
hot to cold and switching is great. At the same time, you may lose some of the exclusive benefit you get from the cold plunge itself by
Mm.
contrasting to heat. So I would say switch it up. On some days you're just doing the cold. On some days you're doing contrast because they give you different benefits.
Mm. See, this is like I mean, okay. Again, you're absolutely right. It's like everybody's unique. And so, um, like another thing that I started doing because I saw, again, you see like little Instagram clips. Okay. You're like, oh, I'm going to try that. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I've been on a real big health kick lately. I'm trying to just, and so I saw this, turmeric, ginger root shots, and I make my own little shots. And, you know, it, do I know if they're working? I don't know if they're working.
Yeah.
All I know is I take one every morning. You know what I mean? On an
Yeah.
empty stomach. Is it working? I don't know. I know they give me the bubble guts. I do know that. But you see stuff, and you're like, I'm gonna try it. And
Yeah.
so you're right. There, like you said, you can't do it all. So basically what you're saying is by taking one of these tests, getting it mapped out exactly what's good for you, what's not good for you. Is this gonna work for you? And maybe not. Maybe the turmeric shot is like totally not gonna work for me, um, based off of my genetics and my code and all of that. So, what do you recommend for someone? What's their first step? Okay, they're trying to figure this out. They're trying to get map it out. What's gonna work?
Yeah.
What's not gonna work?
Well, there's two layers to how you get better. First of all, and not only get better, just become the best version of yourself. How do you live to 120? And why do I say 120?
Mm,
Because if you look at the physical structure of DNA, DNA is in every one of your cells, and aging is actually the damage of DNA in the cells. So when your DNA inside your cells get oxidized and literally rusty from environmental exposures, and your cells start to unravel and break up, that's aging. So the skin getting saggy, the hair turning white is the physical outward manifestation of that inward wear and tear on the cell, right? So your cells have these, or I should say, the DNA has these caps on them called telomeres.
mm,
So that these like bumpers, wear and tear bumpers, right? Those bumpers are designed as a physical structure to last 120 years.
wow.
So,
You know what's crazy about that? Hold on, I want to touch
yeah.
on this real quick. What's crazy about that is I'm in financial services, and we do insurance as well. And with life insurance, um, they extended products to 120 and even 121.
Mm.
And it's like, come on now, these insurance companies know something. Okay, they're not stupid. Okay, matter
Yeah,
of fact, I know. Gary Brecka, that's where he came from, was the insurance world. That's where,
insurance. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, like, they know, because what do? They go and they take blood and urine and they test you, blah, 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 and they get all your records and health, and they can tell you, like, how long you're going to live. They know. Um,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Unless you get hit
Yeah,
by a bus,
so
right?
there's a lot more knowledge that just isn't translated down to the everyday person because
Mm,
it's being used for different reasons, right? So
mm,
this what I if I know this, you know that people up there making decisions know this, right? So the physical structure of telomeres and our aging and our potential is known, but yet the average life expectancy in the United States is high 70s when we're
mm,
wired for 120. And
mm.
there was a study that was done by Harvard where it's the longest ongoing health study in the world. It started in the 1930s and it's still going on today, where they study people that achieve longevity, like 90 years old plus, and they're trying to determine what are those things that these people did that got them to that age. And if I tell you those things, they're so stupid that it opens your eyes to how easy it is to achieve longevity. So the five things are: don't smoke, less than 3 drinks a week, exercise 3 times a week, do not be obese, and maintain a healthy diet. It's like
Mm.
the silliest, most basic stuff got the average American from 78 to 90.
Wow.
So why am I saying this? Because in as much as we want to know what supplement do I take, what therapy I do, what cold plunge do I do, if you just remove the bad habits,
Mm,
you have this God-given gift of living to 120. It's already physically wired in you. It's your choice. Everything you do every day is a choice between adding years or taking years away. Everything you do, everything you eat, every person you talk to that causes you stress or gives you love and pleasure, everything you do is a choice towards health or a choice away from it. So if your choices are always correct, 120 is the outcome. And 120 with good health, not with I'm in a hospital bed. If your choices are always incorrect and you're
mm,
eating like the average American, breathing like the average American, stressing like the average American, not sleeping like the average American, well, then you're going to have the average American lifespan of late 70s. And the last 10 years are probably an illness.
mm. So I know, like, what you're saying is there's some best practices, obviously, no smoking, working out, like things like that, right?
Yep.
So my grandma, right? She passed away at 83. Um, but she smoked for like 40 years or something, 40, 50 years, long
Yeah.
time. But she could have been 10 years older,
She,
right?
yeah, so there's two bits there. One is, why didn't she get sick earlier? Again, unique genetics. She may have had
Mm,
really good glutathione activity in her lungs that helped her detox that stuff. She
mm,
may have really good methylation genes that fights the inflammation caused by the carcinogens in the cigarette, right? She may have really good immune system genetics that the cancer cells that form, her body kills them off. Everybody has cancer all the time in their body. Your immune system is constantly fighting it. So
mm,
she may have been genetically wired to live longer. But now take the smoking away, maybe she would have got to 100,
right,
right?
right. 100%. I mean, longevity is like her mother, my great grandma, was like 93, right? So
Right.
10 years
Yep.
and, no smoking, right? So it's kind of like her mother, no smoking, 10 years later. My grandpa, 93. So I've
Right.
got longevity in my family, right? I've got longevity in my blood, but who knows? Maybe I didn't, maybe some of that genetic code didn't pass down. Maybe it's broken down. Who knows, right? And then
Yep.
we're eating crap. We're eating, all this McDonald's and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, it'd be good to know. What about on the food side, right? On
Yeah.
the food side, does this tell you, because I know what you put in, right? What you're putting
Yeah.
in your body is important too. So what I'm doing right now is I actually subscribe to this Factor meals. They're
Right.
fresh meals that come to my door every week, and they're portioned, so I'm not overeating things like that. And they've got some calorie smart and protein plus, this, that, and the other. You can kind of pick
Yeah.
what you want. And so I feel like I'm eating healthy, but who knows? Maybe I'm not eating the right stuff still. What are your
Yep.
thoughts?
So there's a lot to be said about food. So first step is, there's certain gene pathways that metabolize each macro: fat, carbs, plants. I can't tell you how many people that I have had to tell them that the day you became vegan is the day you started getting sick. And this is not true for everybody, but some
Mm,
people, the enzymes you need to break down plant proteins. So if you're getting your protein from beans, lentils, chickpeas, legumes, etc., but the genes, your genetic code around using those foods efficiently not doesn't work, then you're going to get sick over time.
mm,
There's some people that go on a keto diet, for example, where we look at the APOA2 gene, and we might have to let them know that, by the way, this keto diet is the reason you don't feel good, the reason your hormones are disrupted, the reason you have brain fog, the reason you have an insulin problem. It has nothing to do with sugar. It has to do with fat, because your genetics around fat metabolism are not good. And so we have to be hyper specific on what these people actually metabolize. There's other genes around the gut microbiome, and some people needing to eat more fermented foods and kombucha and kefir to maintain the health of their gut, because they don't genetically do it automatically. But the big one is, and this was part of my story and why I was so sick, and why I discovered, there's another way to do things, is there's a gene called GSTM1,
mm,
and it is the primary first line of defense for your gut. So whatever you eat, whatever pesticides, chemicals, plastics, etc., that come along with that food are meant to be detoxified, removed, and then you pee it out, sweat it out, poop it out, right? It gets out, it removes from your body. This gene uses glutathione, an antioxidant, which is a powerful antioxidant, to do that job. I don't have the gene, missing,
mm.
completely missing from my code.
So you
And
got
so,
no filter. You just
no filter,
no
right?
filter. Oh
But
man.
now, at the time, I thought I was doing well, because a friend of mine who was a naturopath said, "Hey, if you just want a one size fits all answer, basic thing to do, go be on a Mediterranean diet, because that's the healthiest, sort of easy thing to do that doesn't need much management." I said, "Okay, that's what I'll do. Mediterranean sounds good, right?" So me and my business partner, used to do a lot of lunch meetings with clients, and we would go to this Lebanese place, which was a Mediterranean diet, some grilled meat, a little bit of hummus, a little bit of bread, and a little bit of salad. It seemed very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't understand was that where I live in Canada, because we have long winters, there's chemicals used in farming to dry the crops faster so that they can turn around the yield and then also store them in all these grain silos, right? And those chemicals are approved by Health Canada and FDA as safe because most people you test aren't missing this gene that I'm missing. So they can detoxify it. Now, I was eating this stuff regularly, healthy food. Nobody would argue. No nutritionist would tell you this is a bad idea, right? But me, it was a horrible idea because on a 3 to 4 times a week basis, I was eating this toxic hummus that I
Mm.
did not detoxify, and I ended up with leaky gut. I ended up with migraines. I ended up with eczema so bad that I couldn't open my left eye; it was
Oh
sealed shut.
no.
I ended up with psoriasis all over my body, and I ended up with
Oh,
depression. Didn't want to get out of bed, and
oh.
so doctors were telling me these were all diseases that I had, and really what was going on is my gut was so dysbiotic and broken
Mm,
that but the rest of my body was starting to get inflamed. So I finally knew what the root cause was, and I started to address that.
mm.
And then when I address that, I'm not sick. I don't have any of these things that I needed medication for previously.
Okay, so a couple things on that. Number one, medication. Okay,
Yeah,
big pharma. Like I personally, I don't take any medications for anything. And luckily, thank God, right? I don't have to. Um, and I don't like medication.
yeah,
Anytime I ever get, sick or whatever, I fight it out. And everybody's like, man, you
yeah,
should go to the doctor. You should go to the doctor. I'm like, no, I'm gonna sweat this out. Like I'm old
yeah,
school, right?
yeah,
Unless it gets like, when you know, right? Like I'm
yeah.
like, okay, this is a little something else. But um when it comes to medication, like when do you know to listen to that side and to go, okay, I really do need this. This is something that, like, when do you know to listen to your doctor?
Yeah.
Like, because I really don't trust doctors. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I know they're there, they're trying their best, but this is what they've been taught. And I do feel like it's not, I feel like it's wrong, honestly. Personally, that's just my personal opinion. Guys, do your own research, seek your own counsel, seek your own, advisors, whatever. But personally, I don't trust everything I'm being told by doctors.
So medical error, doctors making mistakes, is the third leading cause of death in the United States.
Wow. Okay, what's the one and two? Do you know?
I think it's cancer and cardiovascular.
Wow. So you're
It's a
saying,
reverse order: cardiovascular, cancer, and then medical error.
that, wow, number
Going to a
three is,
doctor is the number three reason why people die in the United States, and the
ah,
majority of that has to do with prescription medication.
mm,
So
yikes.
why is this happening? And to answer your question, when do you go to a doctor? Our Western medical system is great for emergencies. Broke my
Okay.
arm, stage four cancer, weird blood squirting out of some hole in my body, don't understand what's going on, emergencies. That's
Yeah.
what the medical system is for. Chronic
Okay.
disease is not an emergency.
Like
It is called
surgeries,
for
things
years.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now using medication for cardiovascular disease, diabetes,
Mm,
fibromyalgia, infertility, you are not fixing anything. You are masking the symptom. And the symptom is just
mm,
like the check engine light. It's your car saying you need to dig deeper and figure out what's actually wrong here,
mm,
right? Engine doesn't work. Is that enough of an answer? Do you actually know what to do? Right? So the medication is masking the pain that you're complaining about. It is not dealing with the reason you got the pain. So, for example,
mm.
I had eczema, psoriasis, gut issues, migraines. I had medication for all of these things. And
Uh,
my question to the doctor, because by the way, I was never sick before that. I didn't need a doctor before that. All of a sudden, all at once, I had all these problems. So my question to the doctor was, what did I do wrong?
what's
It
causing
doesn't
it?
make sense to me that all these things happened all at the same time.
Right.
And the doctor couldn't really answer that question. And it was like, here's your prescription. So then my next question was, if this prescription works, why do I need to keep taking it?
Mm.
If it
Should
was
cure it.
actually, yeah, if you understood this disease I have, why can't you get rid of it?
Mm.
Because I didn't have it for the first 38 years of my life, and now all of a sudden I have five diseases. So
Mm,
something happened, right? And that's what led me down this journey of discovering functional health, and that there is a way to understand root cause using genetics as a tool, but there's many other tools to use. So long story short, you know, I think we have the best acute care emergency band-aid system that any civilization has ever had, right? We are great at that. I
yep.
think we have the worst chronic disease management system that any civilization has ever had. The
Mm,
American healthcare budget is $4.3 trillion a year. 90%, literally 90%, is spent on chronic disease management.
mm. So you're
So
separating the two.
yeah,
Okay. And that's a good distinction. That's, I mean, because I didn't really think of it that way. Right. That's a good distinction to separate the two because you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right.
yeah,
And okay, so I have a question. I want to kind of maybe switch gears just a little bit because
sure.
you've been pioneering personalized parenting through genetic coaching. Can you share some examples of how understanding a child's DNA can impact not only their daily life but their education and just tell us a little bit about that.
This started with my eyes being open with my own kids, and then knowing that if I can tell you here's a tool for prevention, then the earlier you can start, the better, right?
Mm.
That's simple math. So let me take my middle son for example. His teachers told me that he had ADHD. I was like, no, he doesn't. Like,
I
yeah,
got
he has
told that
ADHD.
too. That was me.
Yep. So when I looked at his genetics, I wasn't looking for an ADHD gene. I was just looking for what biology doesn't work well, and how could that possibly equal what his teachers are saying.
Mm,
And so when I looked at his genetics, what did I find? That he has the worst possible insulin response. So his
mm,
body's ability to regulate insulin levels after eating carbs and starches, horrible. He has
mm,
the worst possible starch metabolism enzyme. So his ability to use bread, sugar, pasta as fuel is horrible. Now, if you combine those, whenever he eats carbs, sugars, and pasta, he goes into a carb crash, intense carb crash.
mm,
And then if I looked at the teachers that were complaining, they were after lunch.
mm,
So he didn't have a problem where he couldn't pay attention. He had a problem where he was going to class in a coma, just having eaten the sandwich and not being able to process those foods. And his peers next to him didn't have a problem with their sandwich,
mm.
right?
Okay,
So that
so
was
let me ask you this. So I'm
yeah,
just curious. So eh, after lunch, he can't really pay attention because he's crashing,
yep.
right? What type of behaviors did he have? Was he just like sleepy? Can't or like what kind of behaviors? Because I know for me, I was like really rambunctious and had a ton of energy. I see me, I wasn't crashing per se. I don't know if that was
Yep.
I
So
I, I had a lot of energy. What type of behavior?
so when so I'm going to speak to your example too, because I literally just last week there's a CEO that I deal with as like a private client, and I kind of maintained his health for him, right? And he had me sit with his son because his son was told he had ADHD, and his story was very similar to yours. And I'm going to explain his story. So my son, it was like irritated, frustrated,
Mm,
annoyed by everything, couldn't pay attention. What looked like can't focus was more like I'm brain dead right now, right? So and when you're young at
mm,
that age, you also can't understand what's happening, right? You can't understand what this feeling is.
mm,
Especially if it happens every single day consistently, it just becomes part of your life. So now that's very different than what you experience, and also what this son of the CEO experienced. And let me tell you his story because it's probably going to be very similar to yours. So there's a pathway for dopamine.
mm,
So dopamine is how you experience pleasure and reward. So pleasure, eat some food; reward, achieve something, right? Um, the way that this child processed dopamine is his ability to bind it. So there's receptors in the brain that allow you to actually process dopamine and feel that wow factor, that satisfaction. He had slim to none receptors, very hard to feel.
mm,
He also had really fast clearance. So once the dopamine is experienced and you get that wow moment, the dopamine needs to be removed from your brain so that you come back to normal, some level of baseline. So he had really low expression of the receptors and really fast clearance. So his reward seeking behavior was slim to none.
hmm,
Second consideration for him, there's a gene called 5-HTT-LPR, which drives your serotonin response. So serotonin is known as a bit of a mood regulator, and the way it does it is it allows your brain to prioritize stimulus. So when you're sitting in a room, whatever's going on, instruction, sound, smell, stimulus of any sort, are you with blinders on focused on what the priority is, or are you seeing and hearing everything?
Mm,
Right? So now,
everything.
yeah, when your serotonin is dysregulated, what looks like a I have ADHD, which is what this child was also told, because he can't. First of all, he's highly reward seeking because he
Mm,
can't get enough dopamine hit. So whatever's
mm,
going on is never enough. He's
mm.
always taking the next risk. What's next? Show me what's like. It's too slow for him. The
Ah,
constant, right?
yeah, that's
Then
me.
yeah. That's one, right? Now the second layer is that too slow, I need more is also happening in a reality where he's seeing and hearing things that other people don't.
Mm,
So it's not ADHD, I can't pay attention. It's actually hyper attention. I'm giving
mm,
attention to everything that you, teacher, can't even see.
mm,
Right. And that's why you're a teacher, because you are wired to have blinders on and just do what needs to be done. I'm not. I'm wired to be an entrepreneur. And no
mm.
surprise, son of a CEO is wired to see everything, notice every detail, be highly reward seeking, and be a warrior. And he's sitting in the middle of a classroom being told to stay in the middle.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. I forgot about these. These are called mic drops. You did just describe me, okay? I'm gonna give you another one. Mic drop. Listen, you just described me 100%.
Yeah.
Okay?
And no
Like,
surprise, you're entrepreneurial.
yeah, 100%. Listen, yeah, like I if there's a lot of noise, right? I hear it all. like
Yep.
and it's hard for me to focus on one thing unless I shut everything out. I've got to
Yep.
like for me to read a book or for me to study, it's got to
Yep.
be complete silence. I have to literally shut out the world,
Yep.
like so that I can just focus. And then I have to read it over and over and over. And the other part where you talked about this was actually from the other kid, from your son, I guess it was. You were describing. I do get frustrated too, so
Yeah.
I'll get frustrated if like I don't understand something or
Yeah.
if I am having a trouble following along. Typically it means I don't care about it because it's something that's irrelevant to me. It's not like I'm learning something that I'm like, oh, where am I ever going to use this? This is useless information. Why
Yeah.
am I learning this? Right? That was school. So I'm like learning it and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't care about it. It's hard for me to focus on it because I got all this stuff going around and I would get frustrated.
Yeah.
Like like very very frustrated to the point where I would get angry, and I had a lot of other things going on in the household and stuff, and I would get frustrated and angry. And they put me in, I was in special ed classes. They had me in the this class called the PASS class, Positive Attitudes for Success, and they put kids that had like attitude problems, ADHD, any kind of disabilities like physical disabilities, and they put them all in this class. And yeah, so I rode the short bus and everything. I mean, they labeled me. They stamped me like something's wrong with this
Yeah.
kid. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with me. There's
You
nothing
what
wrong with
was
me.
wrong was you are wired for a superpower that didn't fit the context,
Listen,
right?
you see what I'm saying? Listen, you see what I'm saying? Superpower. Okay, that's what I'm
It is
talking about.
the wiring you have. People wish they had the ability to actually be to
Ooh,
build and to lead and to see what other people can't see, right?
you
But
see
it
what I'm
doesn't
talking about?
fit somebody trying to force you to be in the middle. You're not
Mm,
wired to be in the middle. And now, you remember earlier I said the reason why you feel really good in the cold plunge and you get literal sensorial feeling in your brain is probably because you have low BDNF, brain derived neurotropic factor, and
mm,
you get a surge of BDNF in the cold plunge. So when you have low BDNF,
wow.
because your brain is slower to process information when it's new, something new, like it's harder to accept, it means that that thing has a lot of meaning, a lot of weight. So
Mm,
this is why you would get angry, because first of all, you're reward seeking. You want like, what's more? Let's do this. You're also seeing all these details that people don't see, so you're getting frustrated and annoyed. Like, why don't they get it? Why can't they do it properly? And that all means a lot to you. So you react in like drama queen response. I'm angry now, right? So this is all genetic wiring that is designed for leadership, not sitting in a classroom being told what to do.
Wow, dude, you're like describing me seriously. That was incredible. Like I wasn't expecting this. That's incredible, seriously. So, guys, when they're talking to you about your kids, saying that, you know, your kid's got ADHD or ADD. First of all, can you tell me what's the difference between ADHD and ADD? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah. So first of all, attention deficit disorder, right? And it's essentially, okay, all of these words: anxiety,
Yeah,
ADHD,
yeah,
ADD, depression, burnout.
yeah.
Not most of these things aren't real. Just let's just start there, right?
Mm,
Most of these things are, you are wired with an innate superpower and you're in the wrong context. You
love it.
are wired to be a binger and you're being told to do all these tasks. You're wired to be a taskmaster and you're being told to binge and study. You know, you are wired for reward seeking behavior and you're being told to slow down.
Mm,
So this is where, you know, the sort of CEOs that I work with, whether it's ADHD, ADD, or burnout, whatever they're experiencing, why do you see so many high performance people are also suicidal? Why do you
mm.
see so many high performance people are also addicts? Because
Ooh.
the exact same, I don't experience dopamine, so I'm reward seeking. Also, I can't feel pleasure.
Mm,
So the three outcomes for somebody who doesn't bind dopamine and get that pleasure is depression,
mm,
because they're doing a normal daily day to day and they're just not getting enough, so they're depressed, or addiction because
mm,
they went down the pleasure route and they started to feel pleasure, or achievement because they went down the reward route, because your brain needs satisfaction. It doesn't need both pleasure and reward, it can get it from either source. And so context becomes key. And yes, there is something called depression. Yes, there's something called anxiety. It's a tiny fraction of the people that actually get diagnosed with those things, that actually have a proper chemical imbalance where they genetically weren't wired properly, let's say. The vast majority is caused, and it's caused by you being wired for something and doing something else,
mm.
right?
So let me ask you this, okay? So what you're saying is I got this superpower, but it does cause friction in some areas, right? It causes some friction,
Yeah.
especially when I was younger. But let me ask you this: like I look at it as I was designed to be. I wasn't designed to fit in. I was designed to stand out. I wasn't designed to be a consumer. I was designed to be a creator.
Yeah.
And it's like that's in my code here. But should someone look at this and say, okay, I got this thing you're talking about, and try to fix it?
No, well, so here's the two things
Okay.
is, you pick two paths and you probably need both. First, discovery. Here's
Mm-hmm.
who I actually am.
Yep. Love it.
Step one, right?
Yep.
Now, knowing who I am, what am I designed for?
Mm,
Like you said, you're a creator, not a consumer. Now you know that,
mm.
right?
Yes.
Now, there's going to be context where that's exactly what you need. Look what we're doing here right now. Look what
Mm.
you've built,
Yep.
right? You have your business, you have your podcast, you're doing all this stuff. You were designed to do that. Great. Now, you need to go on vacation, or
Mm,
you need to go take a course. You need to read a book. Your
mm,
wiring doesn't work. So there are things you can do for supplementation, breathing, devices that calm your nervous system to allow you to get into the state that allows you to do that thing. And when it
mm,
comes to neurochemicals of the mind, these things are temporary. So, for example, you know, if your serotonin is dysregulated, which causes you to be hyper aware of every little detail, which is great for your business, but it's horrible when you're trying to sit with the family at Christmas dinner and they think you're annoying, right? So that's where you might take what's called 5-HTP, which is a very safe common supplement that helps regulate your serotonin levels, but it's temporary. You know, take it today and you're going to feel a little more zen, a little more calm. Don't take it tomorrow and you're going to go back to your baseline. So you learn how to manage once you first recognize who I am and what is that for, what's
mm,
my superpower, and then where does that not fit? And there may be
mm,
a supplement or a treatment or a breath work or something that helps me, like the cold plunge that you do. The cold plunge helps you manage and adjust mood, but it's
mm,
temporary. Skip a couple days and you go back to the way you felt.
mm. That's good. That's really good. So understanding your environment, what are you doing? Again, so if you get a guy like me, okay, and you put him behind a cubicle, working in corporate America, like I'm gonna go insane, right? So how
Yeah.
what do we do for that guy? Because that guy exists. He's out there. Okay, a guy
Yeah.
he's got
So,
my genetics. He's wired like me, but he's sitting in a cubicle taking instructions from someone else, right? And
yeah.
living in corporate America. What should that guy do?
So that's the guy who has anxiety,
Hmm.
who has skin issues from stress,
Mm.
that has gut issues from stress, that has
He needs
been
to
told.
quit. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
So it's one of two
Quit your
things.
job.
Yeah, one of two things: discover who you are and go use your superpower power and quit, or I don't have that option right now for whatever reason, which means you need to supplement to augment your neurochemicals to be able to fit the
Mm.
role that you're in. And it's
Wow.
one of two options: go figure out who you are and go do it, or if you don't have that option, go add things that help you deal with what you're dealing with and not feel the anxiety, not feel the stress, not feel and become that other person.
Mm. Change who you are, or leave and go fit. Find something that fits who you are.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's so important. I mean, because we talk a lot about careers on this show too, and I love how
Right.
we're fitting this in now, your health into with your career, because all these things kind of fit together, right? And so yeah, if you're wired like me and you're in the wrong role, well, shoot, man, you're going crazy,
Yeah,
right?
I feel it too. I'm wired similar to you. And anytime I have a board to report to
Mm,
or investors to deal with, that loss of control,
mm,
and because the amount of detail that I want to deal with versus what other people care about,
ugh,
it's very frustrating to kind of tone it down to what their expectations are. It's like, no, all of this stuff matters and you guys don't get it. Right. So
absolutely. I'll
yeah,
get into meetings like that where there's just uh, all these decision makers, too many people, right? And they're like they're not looking at everything the
yeah,
way I'm seeing it, and to me, it's like clear as day.
yeah,
And also, I want to move fast, and
yeah,
it's like they want to have 1,000 meetings to just talk. I'm like, what are we doing? We're just sitting here talking about it,
yeah,
but let's go, let's move. So I'll get frustrated in those types of environments where it's like, come on, like I see it clear as day,
yeah.
and but I've got to now convince 10 people. uh anyway, yeah, those types of environments do frustrate me,
Yeah.
where um let me ask you this, maybe you can point this out. um when I go to conferences,
Yeah.
okay, and I'm getting better at it, but when I go to a conference, if I'm just going as an attendee, it also can create a level of anxiety for me, um
Mm.
where people are always walking up. Everybody wants to network at these conference, and like, hey, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do? That's always the question that comes out, and I'm just like, man, I hate small talk. I'm like, I just hate it. I like hate small talk, and it's like, what do you do? And I'm like, when they ask me that, I'm like, ugh, I hate that question. Because to me it's just small talk again. It's like it's just, there's no real, they don't really care. um and
Yeah.
so but that's what I'm saying. So as when I go to the conferences, I can get a little bit of anxiety if I'm an attendee, and but I've found that if I volunteer, support, or even I'm a part of the event in some form or fashion, whether I'm on stage or what have you, it's completely different. Like I
Yeah.
would much rather be on stage, give a presentation, even though that has its own anxiety and stuff level, because fear of public speaking and all of that. I have to overcome that. But I would rather do that and then have a purpose driven conversation where people are coming to me with purpose, not this just random, what do you do, trying
Yeah.
to figure out how we're fitting into this relationship. Like I hate small talk. So anyway, talk to me about that. Like, again, I
Yeah.
think I've always said I was born to be on the stage, not in the audience.
So you'll find over and over again where people that are wired like you, and again, I'm assuming this, I don't have your DNA, but just from listening to you,
Yeah.
that goes back to what I said about the lower BDNF levels, right?
Mm,
Where things have a lot of meaning to you. So sense of purpose is a big deal.
Mm.
And if you look at the locations where people actually achieve longevity, for example, Okinawa, Japan, people very consistently live 110, 120, and they have a practice that they call ikigai, and ikigai literally
Ikigai.
means sense of purpose,
Mm.
right? And that's one of the reasons they live so long. So you find that people that are mentally very healthy, which is one of the keys to actually living a long time, don't like things that don't serve a purpose. If you're healthy, you're not seeking sort of unsophisticated reward, like just playing a video game or just chatting just for the sake of chatting and killing time. You value time and you value your purpose, and that's where your priorities lay.
Mm.
And that means a lot to you because the BDNF is low. So it's frustrating when it's not there. So you'll see this in most people that are sort of achievement oriented. That purpose is a big deal, right? And it's not. Yes, there's some genetic underpinning that drives that, but it's also now a context question. You're in a trajectory where that's a big part of your identity now, right?
Absolutely. 100% purpose. Yeah, what's my, like, at the conference example, what's my purpose here? Right? Besides just learning, and yes, and if my purpose is to learn,
Yeah,
right? Again, I think it's my ADHD where I want to drown everybody out. I'm here to learn. I don't need mindless conversation distracting me from my learning. Or if my purpose is like, I'll give you an example. I went to another conference recently where my purpose was, there were a couple of specific people that I was there to speak with them,
yeah,
interview them. I interviewed David Meltzer and was there to talk to him. Like, I'm not there for any other reason. I'm there for him, right?
yeah,
Once I accomplished that, check that box, cool. Now let's talk. Like, I didn't have a problem networking,
yeah,
right? But again, I think it's when I go someplace and I have a specific goal in mind. Like, if I'm there to learn, I'm here at this conference to learn something. It's like, I don't want to talk to anybody,
yeah,
right? So I think you're absolutely right. It's about the purpose. See, this is so good because it's awareness. I'm learning and discovering things about myself. Uh, you know, and I think that's important to understand. Why do I get anxiety? What causes it?
yeah. And if you know that, you
And
can then deal with it.
sorry, you broke up there. What'd you say?
Sorry, I was saying, and if you know the why, which is the most important question to ask,
Yeah,
then you actually know how to deal with it.
exactly.
Like you're
100%.
not masking a symptom anymore. You're dealing with the
Mm,
root, and then you can choose whether it exists or not. And this is true for everything, from your gut being bloated, from your hair falling out to libido issues, like
mm.
every single biological function.
You
There's a
just
reason
said
why things change.
you just said something else I need to talk to you about, man. I need to
Yeah.
talk to you about it. Okay. My forehead's turning to a five head. Okay. I'm 37 and it's starting to go backwards. Okay. I'm getting into these like peaks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, uh, who knows if I'm doing the right things? I'm using like this hair growth shampoo and blah blah blah. I might be making it worse. Uh, wh- what do I do?
So there are very easy to identify root causes for hair loss.
Okay.
And so if you know the why, once again, you don't need to topically try and symptom mask it. You internally deal with the reason why it's happening. So let me give
Mm,
you one simple example. Some men make a lot of testosterone more than others, and some men have a fast version of a gene called SRD5A2, which takes that testosterone and converts it into something called dihydrotestosterone, which is sort of the manly man version with like you have ripped muscles, you can see your six pack. That's DHT, dihydrotestosterone. Dihydrotestosterone, if not utilized, meaning you're not training, you're not being that ripped guy, uh, can kill hair follicles. It literally will live in the follicles. It will block nutrition from being available to the follicles, so the hair eventually dies off. So I can use your DNA. I can look at a 5-year-old boy and predict what's going to happen with their hair, and then also tell them, here's the exact things to do so that that bad news never comes. Because if
wow.
I know that this toxic testosterone is causing it, well, I also know what ingredients slow down your body's ability to make that DHT. I can slow that gene down and make it as if you had the good version, right? And so there's simple things like fenugreek, saw palmetto, lycopene. They're common supplements that will slow this down. There's also things you can topically put on your head that get the DHT out of the follicles so that the
Mm.
hair is actually healthy. So that's one. There's other examples, autoimmunity, your gut, etc. But the big one for men usually has to do with hormones. And like I said, we can predict it, prevent it, reverse it, all doable.
Man, we need to sit down and talk, okay? Like for real. I got some things, you know what I'm saying? We need to sit down and talk because I'm on this health kick, man. Seriously, I'm on this health kick, and you know, this stuff I feel like um we're just on a new with technology and stuff like this, you know, we don't have to do it the way it's been done
Oh
you
yeah,
know 20 years ago, right? Like
yeah.
there's technology that can help us with this stuff, so I'm excited to learn more about it. What's the first step for someone to do, and then how can they connect with you? Obviously I got direct line of communication, you know what I'm saying? But for the audience, how do they connect with you? What's the first step for them to do if they're like, man, I'd like to learn more about my genetic code and how
Yeah.
this all works?
So there's, I would say, three steps.
Okay.
If you want to just have access to information, check out Instagram. I have a ton of followers there that are learning every day about what we learn in the clinic and how to rethink how your body actually works. So there's a ton. Your mind will be blown in terms of what we know, right? So the second option is some people can just go get a test and use the data in the test to sort of self-interpret and learn.
Mm.
Um, the third option, which most people end up doing, is I host a masterclass every week where
Okay.
people show up with their DNA.
Mm.
And what ends up happening is in that group setting, I, as opposed to you bought a DNA test, here's your report, which is kind of what you got for the 10x, like you're talking about, right?
Yep.
But there's so much more personalization and tweaking. Like, look, you asked me the question about the hair, and I have an answer, right? You asked me a question about your, anxiety, we have an answer. So interpretation is more work than the testing itself.
Right.
But the testing itself can't give you interpretation because FDA won't let us, right?
Mm.
You need a clinical interaction. So this masterclass I hold every week, people show up with their DNA in their hand, and we review every single aspect from diet to brain to hormones to diabetes to Alzheimer's, and essentially people walk away from it with a personalized playbook of how
Mm.
exactly their habit should look to live to 120,
Mm.
right? They also have access to like live Q&A sessions that they can jump in. So that I would advise anyone, one time in your life, your DNA doesn't change. The DNA
Right.
you're born with is the DNA you die with. So one time to deep dive, understand it thoroughly, so that in the future, every decision you make is always the right decision. You're never
Mm.
going to have to guess again. So this is where the masterclass really benefits people. So I'll provide you links and everything that people can share and learn. And so there's learn through Instagram, get the test and learn, or invest into a masterclass and really get a deep dive, and you'll hopefully not need a doctor again.
I love this. I love this. I love this. Seriously, like this. Okay, and I have an idea. I wanna pitch you an idea, man. You just let me know
Yeah,
if this sounds fair. Okay. So what I'm thinking, okay, is let's do a follow-up episode, okay,
sure.
where you can look at my DNA,
Yeah,
right, and pull me apart, like
yeah,
live, right? Just pull me apart. Tell me what the heck. Why am I losing hair? What's the deal? What's going on here? What's going on there? Okay.
yeah,
And like, what do you think? Is that something that you think we could do?
yeah. Let's expose you to the world, man.
Yeah, expose me, pull me apart. Be like, yo, bro, your DNA, okay, it's got superhuman, stuff in there. Okay, I've been
Yeah.
watching you. You got,
Well, we might figure out why your grandparents lived to 93. There's actually
ooh,
genes that point to that. So maybe we'll see that. Who knows?
mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to know. Okay, I want to
Yeah.
know because I'm on this health kick, and that's really what I was hoping to get from the 10x Health Systems. And I got to tell you, like again, I haven't done any. Like I got the test and had a few conversations, and it was not broken down to me. I was a little bit disappointed. I got to be honest with you, a little bit disappointed. And I actually I'm still trying to get Gary Brecka on this show.
Yeah.
Because I wanted him to do exactly what you're going to do. So I got you now. I don't need Gary Brecka. Come on, man. Shoot, I got you. Me and you're going to
Yeah.
sit down. I want you to pull it apart and tell me, hey, look, man, these are the things, this is what you're missing, these are where the gaps are, this is what you need to do, these foods, stay away from it, this, that, the other, that kind of thing. Like, tell me what I need to do, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna map you out personally. Pull your pants down and expose you to the world.
All right, man, that sounds good. Well, this has been an awesome episode. I hope everybody is enjoying it. I want to give some quick shout outs before we wrap up. I see Chad Johnson. He says, such a great conversation. Sean Welsh says, this is an important conversation that many can learn from. We got Joel Fry in the house. Good to see you, Joel. It's been a while. Let's see who else we got. Katie Mullen, Flo Nicholas, Stephanie Malik is in the house. Good to see all of you over there on LinkedIn. We got Melissa and Jazz and Amanda Chima in the house, Judith, Cheryl, Mohammed. Guys, if you've been enjoying this conversation, okay, I want you to put a 10 in the chat. Okay, if you've been enjoying this conversation, and if you want to see part 2, okay, because I got Kashif, he is committed now. Okay, I got him here. He's committed. We're going to do a part 2 where they're going to pull me apart. If you want to see a part 2, just put a 2 in the chat. Okay. We got Aleem and Damaris. I see you. Kalos, Nancy, Jay, Alina, Queen is in the house. Good to see you. Alima says part 2. Let's go. JR says part 2. Amanda says part 2. Okay. Right. Listen, the audience has spoken, my friend. It's happening. Okay.
Hey, I committed live, man. I can't back out now.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to part 2. Okay. And I know the audience is. Everybody's telling me right now. We got Alina. She says part 2. Joel Fry says we need a part 2. Okay. Part 2. All right. So, Kashif, thank you so much for being on the show. Any last words for the audience while we're here?
I'd say keep it simple. Disease is optional. Right? They keep your thinking around your health simple, which is what do I add? What do I delete? And every choice I make is a choice towards health or a choice away from it. That's it, right? Every single thing you do, breathe, every person you talk to either gives you life or takes life away. I just know that because of that, disease is optional. Wow. It's not going to happen unless you make it happen. So let's work on it.
Man, let's go. Mic drop for you. And I'm excited for part 2. Let's rock. Let's roll. Let's go. Guys, that's the show. It's all about who you know. Bye.